growth is a wonderful, natural, healthy phase. But the trouble with our economies is that the way growth has been imagined in economics is its shape is this ever-rising line, unending growth, 3% every year, thank you very much, right? That just shoots through the ceiling. Look to nature, which has been thriving for nearly 4 billion years, and it's a pretty good example to learn from, biomimicry. How does nature grow? Right? In nature, nothing grows forever. From whether it's your children's feet or the Amazon forest, things grow, it's a wonderful, healthy phase, but then they grow up and they come to mature. And if they mature, they can thrive for a long, long, long time. In my economics degrees, and I know that students today, was never invited to ask that question. What would it look like to create an economy that grew until it had grown up, that meets the needs of all, and then could be an economy that didn't grow but thrived? Because things that try to grow forever, they destroy the host on which they depend. In our own body, we know it. We call it cancer. So why on earth would we expect that we could create economies that would be the one system that would buck that trend? What would it look like to create economies that grow until they thrive? And the way I say it simplest is we have economies that need to grow, whether or not they make us thrive. In fact, it's driving us to extreme inequality and running down the living world. What we need are economies that allow us to thrive, whether or not they grow.
That goes back to Tim Jackson's point about prosperity without growth,
yes,
which actually was a report to the government. So another question would be, has the government or any of the powers that be actually listened to that message? And if they did, what have they done to act upon that message?
So first of all, I'd say, and I think Tim would agree with me, what we're actually looking for is prosperity with or without growth, because I'm not against GDP growth. What I'm for is a regenerative and distributive economy. And sometimes things need to grow in order to take us there. Just one example would be the government of China has invested $360 billion in installing solar energy capacity by 2020. So that's a huge uptick for GDP growth in China. But once that capacity is in, it's near zero marginal cost of generating electricity, so it doesn't add. So I think GDP has to shift from being this target variable that must always be growing to becoming a response variable that moves up and down in response to the investments and the transformations that are required. So I wouldn't be surprised if GDP actually needs to go up at some point as we make this transformative investment in technologies and energy systems that actually enable us to thrive.